Welcome to Kaizen Time, part of the Blood, Sweat, and Business podcast, where we provide constant improvement to businesses through timely, actionable financial solutions. Do you want answers to your financial questions? Email us at bsp@kaizencpas.com. I'm your host, Mark Valesky. Now let's get started. Welcome to another episode of Kaizen Time. I am joined by Brian Bride, Director of Payroll Operations, who recently came back from a conference. What's up?
Yeah, so we went to iSolve conference in Las Vegas in June. So very hot outside.
So what I'm hearing is that you didn't win big.
No, I did not. I went by the poker room and it was really intimidating, so I just kept walking.
All right, so you went to this conference and it was cool. What was it all about?
So it is iSolved partner conference. So it's about what they're currently doing and what the future of iSolve will look like, the payroll platform and things like that. So we talked a lot about, everybody's favorite topic, AI.
That is everyone's favorite topic these days.
Sure is. Yeah. And so your payroll, you have a lot of data, right? You have a lot of hire dates, end dates, how much people are making, how much they're getting in taxes, how many hours they're working, how many hours, certain job titles are working. So how to get all that data, separate it from the person, right? Because you don't want data that's like linked to somebody. You want more metadata and data and what they call a data lake and how that's being separated in the system so that you can have AI insights based on the data that's in the data lake.
Okay. So, really, what would you say is the most important thing that they brought up at this event? Yeah.
So it's really what it's going to look like now versus what's going to look like in the future. So right now with AI, what it's really good at least in the payroll HR space, is like writing job descriptions. So anytime you need, a clear description, I will throw an email through ChatGPT a lot to make sure that it makes sense. So I used to send it to my assistant manager, and now I just send it through GPT. Mm-hmm. And some companies are testing like automated payroll. So it's like a company that maybe you have 3 employees that are all salary. It will say, hey, do you want to run payroll for this week? And then you push a button, yes. And that's the end of it. It also kind of right now like looks at some exceptions, but that's going to get a little bit deeper because now it just looks like averages. So it's not really AI because it's just saying, okay, this
is normal.
Right.
This is not normal.
No. Yeah. So there's no insights there. It's just like, hey, your normal payroll amount is between 10,000 and 12,000. Today it's 13,000, but it doesn't tell you anything about like what could the difference be? Why that was. Right. And then there are some chatbots in the system now. And that's more of a like client or internal user access. So like we have access to some of them to ask questions like on a screen. So instead of going to the LMS or the help, you can ask a question in a chatbot. But based on that kind of stuff, we're going to talk about like what the futures are going to look like, right? Not like what it looks like now. So some of the things in the future, like for the job descriptions or even like the job cycle, right? So you're going to start looking at employees and you're going to do things like in their performance review, you're going to give them a score. And then you'll be able to compare that to other employees with the same kind of job title to be like, all right, this employee is further down on the list. Here's the trainings that maybe we should provide to them. There's also a big thing about email sentiment. So an email sentiment is like AI will look at the email and like pick out phrases, right? This email is mostly neutral, or this email is mostly negative, or this email is really positive, right? So it looks at things like people writing that was wrong or there's an error. Flag that email as maybe there's an issue there, right? Or a lot of thank yous are like, hey, that worked great. That's going to be a more positive sentiment. So you're going to start having those emails, and then you're going to start seeing what the sentiments are to be able to give training to the employee. So it'd be like, hey, employee Ann that I have, you're getting a lot of emails about like, you don't know anything about PTO accruals. Here's some training for you to make sure that you kind of get up to speed on that. That's what I see for the future for that piece. The other thing about AI is this, people that use AI are going to replace the people that don't. So you need a lot of expertise to be in payroll. you see there's so many different one-off items that could happen. There's some gray area in things. You take a state like Ohio that has a lot of local taxes and things. Yeah, you can build an algorithm for that, but sometimes there's exceptions, like how many days they work there and things like that. They're going to be really hard to determine, especially the data going in isn't the greatest. So having people that have that experience to be able to give a question to a chatbot and then say, hey, that's about right, or no, that's totally way off, is really, really important. So employees that start to use that kind of technology and leverage it for their everyday are going to surpass the people that don't. Another thing about the chatbots is the prompts. I know I struggle with that, so I'm trying to get better at it, is asking the right prompts, right? Because I will call something weird, or I'll think about it one way and it's not how the algorithm's thinking about it. So if you don't have the right prompt, it can really lead you astray. So having the experience to know it is really, really important. The other thing is more the automation of payroll is, we talked about looking at an average, right? Oh, your last 10 payrolls is that. So it's surfing like exact exceptions. So maybe you have a restaurant with a bunch of tipped employees, right? If it just looks at, this employee in the last 10 payrolls is very so wildly, their average could be really low, right? They could have, maybe they weren't working as many hours, and then they worked a lot of hours and worked a big party and got tips. So looking at that kind of specific data, it goes back to something we said a couple episodes ago about making sure you key the data in correctly, right? So making sure you say, hey, they got, tips and how many hours they worked, make sure that is correct. So the algorithm can look at it and say, all right, this person, worked a banquet. That's why their tips are higher. And it's going to, surface something to you to say, hey, this is what we think happens. Is that right? Versus, oh, it's just not within range. And I kind of, put this to like driver assistance, right? So if I'm driving my car and somebody slams on the brake in front of me, the car like slows me down, right? It can read with the radar. My parents have a Jeep and they have like this like cruise control that will, like, if the car in front of you slows down a couple miles, their car will slow down a couple miles an hour just to keep the same distance. So that's really like what AI is, right? It's like driver assistance, where
it's like it's putting in the buffers when you're bowling. Yeah.
This like bumper bowling, right? We're saying, hey, you know what? This might be right. We're not really sure. You need to take a look at it. So, having that experience and expertise is really, really important. So that when they do send you something, you're like, oh, this makes sense, or no, I don't know if that's right or not. And the same thing for like the chat bots, right? So now it's internal, but for end users, it's a really good use case, right? So, I do know that you can turn on if you're using Teams, and I saw now where you can say, how much time off do I have? And it will tell you, oh, you have this many hours left. So the next step for that would be, saying triggers, right? So it's like, hey, maybe your time off resets in January. You're getting a notification in October, from the chatbot that says, hey, Mark, you have like 20 hours of vacation and you haven't scheduled anything. You might want to think about taking some time off. So surfacing that kind of information, or like, saying how much was my direct deposit, maybe your hourly worker, and you don't want to pull the check stub out or look at it. It's surfing that kind of information like, oh, every Friday you get paid. I'm going to send you a notification that says, hey, your direct deposit amount should have been this, and it's right there. So
cool. So it looks like it's just a lot more helpful, a lot more user-friendly, both for the end line and the actual just employee, the payroll person.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that driver assistance where it's giving you the information that you really want, so you don't really have to dig all the way in. So that's really, I think, where the power is going to be, especially some of the writing too. Like, who wants to write a job description or job ad? That's really boring. So having, your kind of voice in it writing for you is a really, really great use case of the technology.
Yeah. I mean, and they probably does a really good job where it's like, do you want to be do you want to shoot rockets into the moon? And, it could make it very creative.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, who wouldn't want to apply for a job where they wrote it like a pirate?
Yeah. That'd be great. Yeah. I mean, if you're applying for a mini golf course, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. What else though? Is there anything else that it adds in, like possibly some insights into like big data?
Yeah. So that's the thing that's the tough part, right? Is separating the data from the particular employee record. Because I would say almost all current payroll systems, it's employee centric for the data. So you have to like cut that. You have to like separate that data from the employee because you don't want to be providing metadata on employees to like other clients, right? So having a large amount where the data is like covered, where you don't know kind of where it came from, but you know it came from an industry that's similar to yours, is really important. So that's a big privacy thing. So the better systems get at separating that data out and then be able to analyze it to be able to surface what they
Provide
want
something useful, right?
to you. Yes, is really important because what if you're coded in your system as a restaurant, but you're really like, I don't know, a bar, right? I mean, some of the stuff might be good, but it's not the same as compare yourself to all the bars across the place. So figuring that kind of part out, that's really, really important. And there's so much data there, right? That you need AI to analyze it because you just can't do it yourself, right? It's just way too much.
And so, Brian, then what is your favorite thing about AI in payroll?
I really like the fact that it's taking over some of the writing and stuff that I struggle with, right? Written communication can be tough for me sometimes. Giving enough detail, right? I'll skip over steps. So putting it in there saying, hey, you know what? I need this. That's right. I need a letter to a client explaining why their taxes were incorrect. Here are my cases to make that clearer to people. I think is a really, really great use case and it's something that I use a lot currently. But in the future, it's really surfacing payroll details, right? It's like, hey, this payroll is on, or hang on, this person over here, their pay's way off. You need to look at it. That's going to cut down a lot of rework and a lot of bad news for employers when they pay somebody incorrectly.
All right. And then if you could give a piece of advice to a business owner about AI and payroll, what would you tell them?
Well, it's coming and it's in a lot of systems already and it's just getting better and better. And it's to learn as much you can about it and, kind of trust the process that they're going to surface really great insights for you and the kind of trust what the system is saying. A little trust but verify, right? Make sure that what you're seeing is you think makes sense for you and your business.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Brian.
Thanks, Mark.
You've been listening to Kaizen Time, part of the Blood, Sweat, and Business podcast. If you like what you heard, subscribe and leave a 5-star review. This podcast has been brought to you by Kaizen CPAs Plus Advisors, providing advisory and accounting services to help you grow your business. Learn more at kaizencpas.com or email us at bsb@kaizencpas.com.